TKO Boxing with Sherry Abbasi. And today I'm joined by a very special guest from the USA, Mr. Jamel Herring, former Super Featherweight World Champion. Jamel, I think like we just said off camera, it's taken a little while to get here, but we're finally here now. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you for giving me a bit of time today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm good. I'm just happy to be here, man.
Amazing. Jamel, I know you had a fight back in November as part of your comeback. You did say that you were going to retire from the sport. Can I just start off there, Jamel, and ask you what led to you sort of thinking about making a comeback in the sport at this point?
Um, it was just that I just love the sport. You know what I mean? I love the sport. I missed it. I got bored being at home, and actually, like I said, my good friend Joe Cordina even motivated me to come back. So it was a few things, and I had great friends, here out in Cincinnati, Ohio, as well. That was motivated me to come back. So it was a lot.
So a number of different motivating factors led to your return, essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And for yourself, Jamal, I mean, you've had a very successful career ultimately. Yourself, you were part of, was it the Marines prior to getting into boxing
Yes,
properly?
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
so you so you've been in a very different walk of life, but in a lot of ways, some of the qualities that you would have had to have as a Marine, the discipline, the regiment, the courage to then step into a boxing ring and transition over as well, and then become a world champion towards the back end of your career as well.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, oh yeah. A
um,
lot of a lot of that played into into my career moving forward from the Marine Corps onward. Even today, a lot of my Marine Corps values still play a huge significant role in everything that I do.
Can I ask Jamel? I've always found it very interesting because I followed your career, especially for the last 4 or 5 years of it as well. But can I ask about your story in terms of your background? What led to you getting into the Marines first of all?
For me, I was never really a street guy, and I had a close friend of mine he was a year older than me. His name is Stephen Brown. And he had joined the Marine Corps before I did. So when he came back, he had suggested that I join as well. And I just said, let's give it a try. It looks like it's doing well for him, So I felt like, I could probably get the same results as well. So that was mainly my main motivation is, getting out from hanging out doing the wrong things.
And like we sort of mentioned a minute ago, the sort of the qualities that you would have had to have developed more further. I'm sure you probably had all these qualities as a human being anyway, but things that you would have had to discover about yourself and sort of take to another level when you were part of the army. How did you find when transitioning that over into boxing?
I had to mature very quickly. You know what I mean? I joined when I was still 17 years old, going on 18. I had my 18th birthday in boot camp, so I had to mature quickly. But it was the core values and the discipline factor. Like you always had to be very disciplined in the Marine Corps. So those things obviously helped me in terms of becoming a better fighter in and out the ring. You got to be disciplined. Like even now, like you see me, I don't put on tons of weight. Even further at my age, I don't put on a bunch of weight
Mm,
to where I make it hard for myself to lose the weight. I always take care of my body. I always leave room for me also to grow and learn more, even in the sport of boxing. So
absolutely.
it's just a huge discipline factor.
So it's essentially it's a way of life, isn't it? It's not just a matter of it's a
Absolutely,
job or it's this. It is a way
absolutely.
of life.
I mean, you see me now on Twitter. I'm always tuning in with the people about because
Mm.
boxing is a lifestyle. So I'm always tuning in. I just want to get everyone's opinion. I don't know it all, of course. I like to hear from others and their opinions. I like to speak with others such as yourself about your experience and share my experience, and I can possibly learn something new every day. So I'm always open minded, and that's what takes a lot to continue to grow in the sport of boxing.
I think that's what's so beautiful about these types of things, like sport, like this, for example. Like you said, yourself, you're a fighter who stepped away for a little while, but you still had, the bug, and you had that desire inside of you. So you've come back now. But
Yeah,
like you said about Twitter and social media, you love to have that dialogue and that communication. And
yeah,
I believe
absolutely.
on Boxing Day, did you not do the commentating for the Inouye fight as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it was
So
like
you're
three,
involved.
3 o'clock, 4 in the morning in the United States around that time. But it's what I love to do. I love to commentate. I love to share my experience and thoughts and what I'm looking at from my perspective in the ring. And I just love to be open minded to what people think of my opinion and feedback as well.
Absolutely. I think you did a great job, by the way, Jamel. You could
Thank
tell what it is, I think when you speak to people or you hear people talk about something that they love, that passion when it comes through, you do a better job naturally, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
You
I
know,
appreciate that.
you do get people, like, for example, you get newsreaders, right, who they'll have a straight face and they'll be delivering the news. I don't blame them if they're not passionate about talking about a flood or a
Yeah,
war or things like that. But if
yeah.
you're talking about the sport like the way me and you are now, we're both passionate about this. We love boxing. Of course, the love you have for it is 10 times more than me because you've lived it. I'm just a fan and
Hey,
a spectator, but
hey,
um,
I'm a fan.
it's
Like I said, listen, I always have my fan first. You know,
yeah.
just because you may see me on TV or in the ring doesn't mean that I'm better than anyone in terms of my knowledge in the sport as well. Like I know a lot of fans that never stepped in the ring that knows a ton of knowledge, and that's why I love speaking with people. Like you see, I'm very open minded. I always believe if you give respect, I give respect back. So that's just who I am. Like I said, because I don't know it all. I don't know everything. I don't know every aspect of the history of boxing, but I'm learning more and more every day. I mean, I've obviously, yes, I have a ton of knowledge, but still I don't know it all, and I would like to
Mm.
learn more each and every day, especially newer talent that I may have not noticed that I get to see now commentating from overseas in Japan and now Saudi Arabia is doing great things with boxing. So we that's become like the new Las Vegas of boxing. So I'm just fascinated with everything going on in the sport, and I want to continue staying in love with the sport.
Definitely, and I think, like you said about the giving respect and receiving respect. Someone like me, for example, who I don't have a massive following on Twitter, but you responded to my messages. It might have taken a little while for us to get it done
Right, yeah,
today, but we've been having a dialogue back and forth. That's life. But the fact that
yeah.
you gave me that respect, I gave you that respect. It's amazing, and
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, no, I don't believe in like no platform is too big or small. Because one day you might have a huge platform, and then
mm,
guess what? I may want to need your help to put something out
mm,
there. So it was like, but we already had that relationship and that dialogue to where
yeah,
like
exactly.
this is somebody I looked out for years ago. Now he's here for me, and that's how you build relationships and character.
100%. And again, it goes back to the whole point of I'm sitting on one side of the planet in the UK, you're in the USA, but we've got a dialogue about something we love. So it's amazing.
Yes,
It's beautiful in a lot of ways. And that's one thing I would say about social media and boxing. As much as we have a lot of silly people online and bickering and all these things, the community of the boxing Twitter, for example,
yeah, yeah.
people connect all across the world, and it is
It's
amazing
alive.
the
Yeah,
amount of opinions and
it's alive and well. Even if it's toxic at times, it's alive and well.
yeah,
So but that's a great example though. Like again, like what would we be doing with social media? We probably be doing the same, newsletter, typing up things, and we have to take a story from what's being written down instead of like living it in real time. Like I can get on Twitter now and I can connect to you and my other friends in the UK in real time, not to where I have to write an email or a newsletter. So
yeah, yeah.
it just makes it a lot more better and it flows.
And that's the benefit of, I think, modern technology, especially for the sport as well. And analysis of things on TV. There's so many different factors to it now. Where in
Yeah.
the old school it was a completely different game. So the sport is constantly developing and finding ways to innovate, which is
I mean, even
excellent as
now,
well.
look at us now. We're live. We're live. We're doing a live, what I'm saying, interview right here on the feed. Not until where it's
Yeah,
not like you have to make a phone call or we gotta again, you send me questions and I send you back my answers type thing. So
yeah,
that's the beauty of, like I said, technology today.
exactly. We've got an organic conversation going on, so it's
Yes.
amazing. Jamel, obviously, we spoke a bit about your sort of entry into the Marines. Can I ask what your earliest memory of boxing was, just as a child or as a youth, for example?
I think my parents, of course, around that era was probably like the Tyson era, the heavyweights. Even then I fell in love with just watching. I think like I got more proud, like more respect for just like that era because again, you even had like the guys like Lennox Lewis and Frank Bruno from overseas and that 90s era heavyweights and then you start looking at the smaller guys, like the guys like Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosley, Eric Morales, and the list goes on. Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, and it just so many. And so when I started like seeing, like just watching those guys, of course, from just the TV perspective, until like you mentioned, we get into the digital era where now you can start digging in, you can start typing in things, and like you can start doing your own research, and you start going back to the '80s and the '90s with the Ray Leonards and so on. So like for me, I just always been a student of the game, and like it was just one of those things where boxing was very huge in my household, and that's when I really started to just fall in love with it. I mean, my favorite fighter that actually got me into like really into boxing, I would have to say was with Sugar Shane Mosley when after he beat Oscar De La Hoya. And you remember
Yeah.
this is we're kids then, so at this time, this is when you come out all the video games like Knockout King. So you see all your favorite guys that you watch on HBO and Showtime, whatever, in the States on on the cover of a game, and it's like, okay, then you start to get familiar with the other great characters like the Ali's of the world and the Frasers and those guys and so on and so on. So like a lot of my love came from just like watching it on TV and like again like playing it on video games or just word of mouth.
Got you. So a few different factors that got you into the
Yeah,
sport, essentially.
yeah, definitely.
Like we said, obviously Mike Tyson, someone who's held a massive influence for the last 30 years in the sport of boxing, whether he's fighting or not. So it just
Yeah.
shows the larger than life type of characters that boxing can produce. I think it'd be very hard to find another Mike Tyson. It's been 30 years, of him being in and out of the sport. I don't think we'll ever see another guy like him. So he's special in that sense. Who would you say is your biggest influence in terms of your in-ring style and the way you've approached fights?
Right now, I would say Bernard Hopkins, and I would say that because Bernard Hopkins, I mean, look how long it took. Look how far into his career it took him to really get a big break. I believe he was like 36 years old when he got the Trinidad fight and he got his big break. And even then, they were counting him out. But he took care of himself. He took care of his body, and he was always willing to perfect his craft. And you see how long he prolonged his career well into his 50s, and he was still competing at a high level. So, like, guys like that, really, and then again, that was one of my favorite fights, watching him when he undefeated Felix Trinidad. So yeah, guys like Bernard Hopkins and I speak with everyone. Like again, even my trainer Wayne McCullough. Wayne is a Eddie Fudge guy. He's an Eddie Fudge student. And now I'm a student of him. So again, like it just like I always anybody that's done it before me, honestly, doesn't matter where they're from. Again, like I was a friend. My mom was a huge Prince Nassim fan. I mean, so when I started watching him and when I was younger, that's when I got into that's when I started seeing the side of showmanship. But again, he had a different style and he had devastating power. So, there was craft behind everything he did. But again, he knew how to sell it. He's probably one of the biggest reasons why like the little guys and the featherweights and up actually get the big paychecks today, because back then they wasn't getting like the $1 million paydays until Prince Nassim came into the fold of everything. So again, I look at everything and I just respect the history of the sport, and I respect everyone who's done it before I did.
100%. I suppose that's one thing not to lose sight of is the people that built the house that we're living in now, essentially, especially for the lower weights, like you said.
I mean, again, even for women's boxing, when you get the Layla Ali's and all those, the Mia St. Johns of the world, and you got to look where women's boxing is at now. They had to start from somewhere. So even women's boxing, you got to give respect to from how it was 30 years ago, and it's way bigger now. I mean, it's not like back in then it was like like the A side was just a name, but you wasn't familiar with the B side, whoever was across from them. But now now in today's world, you got the A side and the B side, and there's many other up and coming female boxers coming up right under them, and you're familiar with them as well. So like I said again, you have to pay homage to the people that did it before you, and it goes both ways, both for men and women's boxing.
Exactly, and I think especially for the women's side, like you said, in recent years, you've had so many great fighters come through. Amanda Serrano, and Katie Taylor a few years back when they were at MSG. That was an amazing fight. I think in 2022 in October we saw the all women's card in the UK. Clarissa Shields versus Marshall. Baumgardner versus Mayer. Great show.
And men and women both tuned in. It wasn't a thing like at one point you probably still hear it now, but it's not as loud as it was 10 years ago. Oh, I don't watch women's boxing. Now everyone knows at least who these female athletes are. Whether you watch them or not, the Clarissa Shields and like I said, Amanda Serrano's and the Katie Taylors of the world and so on. So it's growing, Franchon Cruz, there's Alicia Baumgart, all the Michaela Mayer, what I'm saying, you're familiar with these names now.
They're all trailblazers in their own right, aren't they? They will be remembered for the future that these women, really put on for the future generations. So it all has to start somewhere, like you said. So this is the era where they're building up. So that's great to see.
Like you say, even over there, shout out to Caroline Dubois. She's making her and her brother. You know what I mean? So again, this is an American that's familiar with
Yes.
everything going on around, with whether even male or female. I'm familiar with these individuals now, so where I know, okay, I know who that is. I watched her, I heard about her. Oh, she's done great things. Oh, he's done great. I mean, Daniel just had an incredible win over Big Baby. So like
Yes.
again, so that's what I mean. Like I'm always staying in tune with what's going on
Yeah.
in the world of boxing.
Paying attention. I'm sure, Jamel, you've heard over the years your resemblance to a certain somebody. Uh,
Yes.
I don't even need to say the name. You know who it is. Yeah. Again,
Hey,
he was part of a
my
legendary fight.
guy Kevin Kelly, man. Like Kevin called me at least every other day in my last camp because Kevin and Wayne are real great friends. So
Yeah.
shout out to Kevin Kelly, and like again, he's another one. Like he shares stories with me that I probably forgot because I was a kid then. And he's like,
Mm.
"Oh yeah, back then in MSG, I did that. I fought." I'm like, "Man, I forgot that you came across that path with this individual or that individual." So like again, I never like shrug off the guys that did like again that's been here before me or done it better. So I always give those guys respect, and even now I answer their calls. I never think I'm bigger or better than anyone. Like again,
Mm.
I love when they call because I can learn something, or I can pick something. I can actually pick their brains and go from there. But yeah, Kevin Kelly, man, Kevin was taking DNA test, so he did. So yeah, so shout out to Kevin, man, and the
Shout
family.
out to Kevin. Now, of course, again, these are legends of the past that we never stop respecting. They gave so much to the sport, so many memories. For yourself, Jamel, in terms of 2019, you won the world title. Then 2020, unfortunately, COVID lockdown affected a lot of things, but you still managed to
Yeah,
get a fight in. And then 2021, Carl Frampton, and moving forward, I think you fought Lamont Roach as well, and then
yeah,
Shakur further down the line,
yeah,
and Jermaine
yeah.
Ortiz afterwards.
Right.
Can you explain in words, if possible, what it felt like the moment you won the world title?
Oh, greatest fit in the world because they thought my story was just pretty much a Cinderella story, where pretty much,
Mm.
they knew my story about how where I came from, my military background, and so forth, and everything like that. But they thought it was just going to just end there. Like we can at least say that he at least got a world title shot, and I was like, no, I want to go further than that. My story
Mm.
isn't going to end with just getting the title shot. So again, Masaki Ito, I give him all the respect in the world to this day because he gave me a chance, he gave me a shot. But again, when you look back on that fight, people thought it was going to be a difficult fight for me, and it showed how bad I wanted it that I wouldn't say I cruised through it because again that takes away the hard work that I put into that fight. But again, I was determined not to let the moment get to me and let it deter my dream. So, and even then, you guys seen it. I kept pushing for the bigger fights. Remember, um, damn, now I'm forgetting his name, and he was the number one guy at the time, WBC champion. Now I'm forgetting his name, and I feel bad because he fought Miguel Burchell.
Yes,
Miguel
yeah, yeah.
Burchell was a
Oscar
guy. He was
Valdez, yeah. Mm.
he was the guy at the time, and I wanted to unify with him, but he had other plans, which I respect. His boxing is a business. He had the plans. That's when he went the route of trying to fight Oscar Valdez. So guess what I had to go do? I had to go look overseas to get a great champion in terms of Carl Frampton. And even
Yeah.
then, they counted me as the underdog, and I was willing to go to Belfast. When like you mentioned, the pandemic came about, they had shut that down. Then they were supposed to go. Frank Warren wanted to go to London. I was wanting to go to London. Then that had got canceled out, so we ended up going to Dubai. And even then, again, I was still the underdog, and I made one of my biggest victories look easy. And again, he's not an easy guy in there. But again, it just goes to tell you when you want something so bad and you want to improve, so you prove yourself, you're gonna work as hard as you possibly can, and that's what I had to do to get my respect in that fight. Unfortunately, afterwards, I came into of course a great guy like in terms of Shakur Stevenson, despite what anyone may say about Shakur's last performance. But again, no one has came close to beating Shakur, so I don't take nothing from that. And then we all seen the setback I had again with Jermaine Ortiz. But again, I'm back at it. Came back with a first round knockout in November, and I'm still trying to still trying to test myself and push myself and go against the bigger names out there. Even to the point where I made a campaign into wanting to fight in the UK now because I feel like if you're a real world champion, you fight anywhere in the world. Even though I don't
Absolutely.
have a title, but I believe that real fighters fight anywhere. I don't want to. I
Mm.
don't just stay in my comfort zone, and I'll fight. And like I said, again, you've seen the names I put out there. I want to fight guys from the UK in the UK if that's the case.
Absolutely. And I think that, to touch on your last point about a world champion being someone who fights anywhere and is willing to take
Around the
those
world.
challenges, I think someone who's been a perfect example of that in recent years is Alexander Usyk. The guy's won pretty much every fight in the other person's backyard, essentially.
Yeah.
The only time he's really had a home fight was his fight against Dubois, which was, it wasn't really home. It's Poland, so it's next door to his home because of the current war. But the reality is the guy has beat everyone on the road in their backyard, and that is a quality of a champion. So obviously, hats off to you, and we commend you for your mentality, and we need more fighters to have that mentality. It's one of those things that I think it's a rarity because people want every advantage they can get. It's not saying that they're weak or they're cowards. It's just you want to have that home comfort. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
and
world champion
that's fine if it makes sense. If it makes sense, but again, I believe boxing is I get it. It's a business first, but it's also entertainment. You need to put entertainment. So if I can go build a new fan base overseas and so on, why not? I mean, that's what I did with the Frampton fight. I've got many friends from Ireland and the UK now. So again, I took that chance and I fought a notable guy, that they all loved and respected. So I mean, I recommend any fighter to take a chance and trying to win over a new audience.
Definitely. And to touch on your sort of world title reign, essentially, you had a number of fights as world champion. What would you say was your best performance as a world champion? Who was it against and why?
Again, I'll probably say Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton was. I think no. I will say at least this. This is what I say. I said Carl Frampton was my most accomplished opponent that I fought.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the guy who was at one point 2016 Fighter of the Year, Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year, multiple division world champion. He was going for his third division when we fought. So he was far more accomplished than anyone that I fought on my resume now. I mean, you could probably put Shakur Stevenson up there for being a 3-time division world champion as well. But again, at that time, Carl Frampton was the guy. I would say Shakur Stevenson was probably the best fighter, the best overall skilled fighter that I've ever fought. And Denis Shavkov was probably the strongest fighter that I fought. But again, the best victory on my resume, hands down, has to be Carl Frampton right now. And I say right now because again, I still want to continue pushing forward to putting other bigger names and wins over them on my resume.
So the ambition and fire is genuinely not just back for the sake of it. It is a genuine thing. You want to be world champion.
It's still there. Like for me, again, I want to fight 3 times this year. So I want to make an example. A lot of these guys fighting one, maybe 2 times. No, I want to stay busy. My minimum is 3 fights. My minimum, it should be 3 fights this year. So that's what I want to do. I want to fight of a minimum of 3 fights, but I want the fights to be something that makes it count. Like again, I've called out guys from you've seen the chat before. They wanted me to fight. They wanted to flirt with the idea of fighting Joe Cordina back in September, but I wasn't ready. I've been in a long layoff. I wasn't ready, and I like you said, I didn't want to come back just for the sake of coming back. I wanted to come back and give myself a chance of being actually winning another world title. So he fought November. I fought November, but I see now, he's moving on to someone else, which I respect. It's his choice. But again, if I couldn't fight him, I wanted to fight, guys like Lee Wood, Josh Warrington. I even called out Jordan Gill, who had a great performance over my good friend Mick Collin. So that's just shows you and I was willing to get up from here in the States and go over there to wherever the fight may land at. And I even got to the point where I've inboxed Eddie Hearn. I went to my promoter and Lou DiBella, like, Lou, I want these fights. These are fights that I want. If I can't get these fights, okay, I'll fight here in the States. I wouldn't mind doing a rematch with Lamont Roach, who I respect, who's a world champion now in his own right. So again, the list right there just goes to show you that I don't have no issue fighting anyone outside of my comfort zone and even running it back with Lamont Roach. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
So for you, this year is not about soft touches; it's about getting the best fights for yourself.
No, the soft touches don't mean nothing for me. Like again, I was kind of even disappointed, like annoyed. Like I mean, I'm happy with a victory, but like I said, it was a few. I didn't have many choices coming back, and of course, we know the rule. We know the game of boxing. They wanted to see. I had 2 setbacks, so they wanted to see how much that I had left in me. So I didn't have a handful of opponents that I can really choose from the last time around in November. But I had to go the best option, and I was an undefeated kid. And if you look at just on my resume, I fought 3 undefeated fighters at that point. I fought Shakur Stevenson, Jermaine Ortiz, and then boom, another undefeated fighter. So that goes to show you, for me, I wasn't looking for the guy with the losing record and things like that. That's why I chose Nick Molina. So and again, even now, Lou asked me if because I didn't get a lot of time to knock off, I guess, the ring rust. They gave me the option if I wanted to, take another touch to where I can get some rounds. And I was like, no. I said I got an idea where I'm at, what I want to do. I know how I felt, even though it was one round. I know how I felt during the training camp. I would rather still test myself and go fight, the Jordan Gills or the Woods or the Warringtons of the world, or whoever out there, and go from there.
So the ambition is very strongly there, and I think last
You can
week
hear
I
my
had
voice. You can hear my voice.
You can see it's genuine. You can see it's genuine.
It's not like I'm just saying it like I'm really passionate about it. Like, and again, it's to the point where I get frustrated because, like, I don't know what more do I gotta do to get one of these guys in the ring. And there's no disrespect. I get it. Sometimes right now they're probably doing looking for the bigger fights, the bigger paydays, and I respect that. I respect that 100% fully. Again, if I would love to see if Warrington and Wood run it back. They do it again, and but I also put that out there. If they do that again, hey, I'll be more than happy to be placed on the undercard. Put me as a co-main event. Put me as a co-main event against Jordan Gill or someone else out there. Put me, just put me in the mix of to get to maybe the winner, or to get me back another title shot with any of the world champions out there.
You know what it is, Jamel? You're probably one of those guys now, because you've been a former world champion. You've had some big wins. You're probably a very high risk, low reward guy now for them. They might say, "Oh, either we take Jamel and we say we beat a former world champion,
think about it. I'm a
he comes and knocks that guy out." Yeah,
you gotta understand. I'm a southpaw for one. I'm
exactly.
They say I'm too tall. I'm 5'10". I'm big for the weight. So I understand. I get it. But again, like I spoke with Lou, me and Lou have a great relationship. Lou DeBella said, if we can't get something, because he knows I want to fight at least three times this year. We'll take another. We'll have to take another state busy or so. I don't want to, but if I have to, then so be it. But again, if I had my choice, I would definitely be in there, like I said, in the UK at a stadium or something, fighting over there with you guys.
I'd love to see that, and honestly, for you, just to experience that as a fan of the sport and as a boxer, that would be amazing for yourself, because we've got some of the best fans in the world. You know what I mean? The atmospheres out here are crazy. So we respect all fighters that come over here.
Listen,
so you get a great welcome.
I told my friend Earl Spence, I envied him when he fought Kell Brook, even though he was the guy going to enemy territory. It's just the moment. It's the experience. I want to live through that experience. The closest I got to that experience was, the London Olympic Games in 2012, but it's different in terms of a professional fight and on a world title scene. So again, I just want to live that experience. But if I can't, I'm more well open to fight, like, again, other guys on this side of the pond. Like I said, Oshaki Foster is a great champion in his own right. Lamont Roach, the man right now to beat is Emmanuel Navarrete, but I believe he's probably going to move up soon. So who knows? But again, I'm open for anything. Like I said, I take care of myself. I don't listen to the doubters or whatever. Like I said, the proof is in the pudding. So we'll just have to wait and see. But like you mentioned, it's one of those things where, like, if I was an easy fighter, they jump on it because I'm a former world champion and it's a name.
Exactly.
But like you pointed out, they look at it right now as a low risk, high reward. So I take that to a certain degree as a compliment.
100%. That is the only way you can look at it ultimately, because no one's lining up to fight you, even with your credentials. So unfortunately, like you said, that's the business side of it more than the sports side of it, isn't it?
Yes.
And that is how it is sometimes in boxing. I spoke to Julian J. Rock Williams last week, Philadelphia, former unified champion at super welterweight. And we had a good conversation. And he was saying about how he had a bit of inactivity over the last 3 or 4 years, and he had some injuries. He wasn't using those to blame his losses on. He was just generally saying, I've had a bit of inactivity and stuff. And he said, this sport is too dangerous to only be half half in, if that makes sense. He goes, you have to be committed, and that's what he's trying to make 2024 about, being fully committed, giving it one big push to become a two-time world champion and stuff. You're in a very similar situation in the sense that you got, a beautiful family.
I mean, just like you said though earlier, just like 10 minutes ago. I'm not in it just to say I'm in it, because you can't be in it just say you're in it, because with that mindset, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get hurt, and it could end badly to where you never fight ever again. So if you're gonna get back into the sport, and that's for anyone listening, if you're gonna get into the sport, make sure you're fully 100% committed and you're doing it for the right reasons. Don't just go. I'm not coming in here just looking for the payday, because when you just focus on just the payday, I feel like that you lose track of what's important, and you start taking shortcuts. And again, more importantly, the payday is going to come with the bigger the fights. The more you grow and improve your career, the bigger the next fight is going to be anyway. So the payday is going to be there regardless. But if you're just looking just for one thing, or you're not fully in it, it can end bad.
You answered my question there before I even asked it, because Julian said the same thing. He said exactly the same thing. He said it's too dangerous to be half in, half out. You have to be fully committed, and things will work out if you do put the work in, ultimately, with a bit of luck as well. But the hard work is what gets you there ultimately, isn't it? And he said, about having a family and having, his health, and, yourself. Thankfully, fortunately, you've got your health. You still talk fine. Everything's good.
Yes.
What is the end game for Jamel Herring in terms of how long would you give it? For example, if you couldn't get big fights, you're 38 now. How long would you give it?
I think I just take it one fight at a time. I listen to my body. I'm just listening to my body, and I'm just being honest. I can feel good. I can feel good today, and then don't feel like I have it tomorrow. So I just take it one day at a time, and I'm just grateful though that right now I feel great. I'm still, like you mentioned, I'm motivated. I'm not slurring my words. I'm coherent. I'm still here. But I'm just taking it one day at a time. Like somebody mentioned, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, something on Twitter, like you said, you might be the next Bernard Hopkins or the George Foreman, and that's another compliment. But again, those guys, like they had both feet in it, and they had to take it seriously. I mean, I think when George Foreman came back out of retirement, he was 38 years old. So it's one of those things where you gotta just take it one day at a time. But you can't take shortcuts. You gotta do it right, and you have to be careful. You just have to be careful.
100%, and completely appreciate everything you said there. And like you said, you are taking all the the precautions, doing things the right way. So hats off to you for that, Jamel. I was hoping to ask you a few questions about some other fighters who you've had sort of connections with and sort of links to. Starting off with the pound for pound best fighter in the world, Mr. Terence Crawford. You've had a good relationship with Crawford and Bo Mac. Is he still your manager now, or was he just
no? We're still all close. Like I spoke to Bo Mac probably last week or so. We always speak.
Yeah.
Bud's a great guy. You're a real good guy. I mean, Bud, I owe a lot to Bud. Bud helped me get that mindset of what it takes to become a champion and how to keep a championship, championship title. So I owe a lot to Bud.
And what would you say about Terrence's sort of mentality and what keeps him hungry, considering all that he's accomplished in his career? What keeps him in that?
He loves challenge. Listen, he's the most competitive guy I know. Doesn't matter how much he has in the bank or how many titles he has hanging on the wall. This guy, every day he wakes up with the ambition and motivation to better himself. So if you tell him he can't beat this guy, even if he's 48 years old, he's gonna go out there and give and put the work in and go out there and beat that guy. So that's just how Bud is. So it's just his determination and his ambition that keeps him so ahead of the game, ahead of the curve of anybody. Because even now, I guarantee he's in the gym. He may not have a fight officially lined up, but he's always in the gym working.
That's the thing. I think that's what separated. I don't want to say anything disrespectful to Errol Spence, but I think it's all these things that Bud has been doing for all these years, living that life constantly in the gym, constantly working hard, that ultimately pay dividends on fight night. Can I ask your opinion on, your thoughts on his performance against Errol Spence and
again, Errol's like I mentioned,
an all-time great performance he put on.
Yeah, that was great. Great friend of both of them. Great friends of mine. Love them to death. But I was even shocked at how the outcome. I thought it would be real competitive back and forth, but that just goes to show you. And Errol Spence is not a bad fighter by far. He was the number one guy at welterweight for such a long time. So you can't take that from him. Just that Bud Crawford, just a different. He's just one of those special fighters that you may see once in a lifetime fighter. So You got it. He's probably a guy. He is going to be a guy. We'll be talking about 30 years from now how special and great he was. Same as Errol. They be talking because because Errol Spencer is great in his own right. But again, Bud just has that it factor that makes him stand out from everyone else.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter earlier today, we saw Errol Spence had some eye surgery. Did you
Oh,
see
I didn't
that on
catch
Twitter?
it. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it.
Okay, so I'll just give you a bit of a background. You can see yourself afterwards. But he's had a cataract surgery on his eye and stuff. And he made a joke. He said, "Oh, this has been like for a long time. Why do you think Bud caught me with so many jabs and hooks? I couldn't see anything." He said it jokingly in a caption, and now
Yeah.
Twitter's blown up saying, "Oh, he was injured. This is it now. Bud's
Oh,
Windows
yeah,
account. Or, you know how it is,
yeah,
all this.
yeah. I don't. But I'm good to see that he's back. Again,
Yeah,
I always love to hear from him. I know that people miss hearing from him,
yeah,
but yeah. I mean, it's just boxing. These things happen, and I hope he makes 100% full recovery or whatever he's going through with his eye.
100%. Errol Spence, like you said, has been a great fighter, a former unified champion. He's done a lot in the sport, so he deserves his flowers and his credit. And hopefully, he's able to make a comeback and have a push at 154 as well. Whatever the outcome is with him and Terence, they're both great fighters and deserve respect. Like you mentioned earlier, a little bit about Saudi Arabia. We're seeing a big push there on all these massive events coming up. In a few weeks, we will see the first ever undisputed heavyweight champion in 25 years crowned, which is a crazy amount of time, quarter of a century. It's crazy to say that since Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, which has a lot of contrast.
I'm just noticing. My mother loved a lot of UK fighters. Lennox Lewis was another one of her favorite boxers. I'm just noticing that now. Like Prince Nassim, Lennox Lewis was two of her favorite fighters. But again, Lennox was somebody that I didn't fully appreciate when I was younger because I was so American. At one point in time we dominated the scene. But as I got older, I started watching his craft and studying him more and more. I started to love and respect what he did for boxing and how he avenged every loss that he had as a pro. He came back and avenged them all. So it wasn't many, but again, he avenged all those some of those losses or defeats or setbacks. So again, Lennox Lewis, shout out to him. But yeah, it's been such a long time since we had an undisputed heavyweight championship. But it's good though. At least we're still here to see it happen again.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. And obviously, we've got two quite contrasting styles now. Tyson Fury in the last few years has become more of a typical Kronk fighter where it's about the knockout and coming forward and getting aggressive. And Usyk's more of a ballet dancer, rhythmic flow. How do you see the fight breaking down? You don't have to give me a prediction necessarily because it's still a little while away.
I think it should be. I hope it's come down to how Fury trained compared to his Francis Ngannou fight. You know what I mean? A lot of people say he didn't take it seriously or whatever, or he may have been losing a step. So for me, it's really about which version of Tyson Fury are we getting that night. We know what Usyk's going to do. We know he's going to use angles. Use like again his footwork. His footwork's superb. It's like he's basically the heavyweight version of Lomachenko in terms of his footwork. They're both stablemates and both close. But again, it's a real interesting chess match because Tyson Fury is still a big man. He's still a big man. Usyk, great in his own right, but he's not considered still a big heavyweight. You know what I mean? And again, we seen Fury come in there and like use his weight, shift his weight around to where he leaned on even guys like Deontay Wilder, who was a big knockout artist at that time. So again, I think if Fury can be the Fury where he can actually use his weight but still be light on his feet as well and box, he can make it difficult for Usyk. But again, if Usyk finds his way on the inside and stays there, he can make it a very frustrating night for Tyson Fury as well.
Because typically we've seen that Tyson has sort of struggled a bit more with guys who can move around, who are smaller, like Steve Cunningham, for example, Otto Walling, these type of guys who have that movement and sort of a slick style, for example, they've caused them problems. So a lot of people are looking at that and saying Usyk's probably the best out of those three fighters, so he could give him trouble. But like you said, I think a lot of it depends on what Tyson Fury we get as well. That's a massive event to look forward to. But Jamel, obviously, I've had you here for a long time. I just wanted to say a few just quick fire questions just to get a few answers out of you. The first one would be, out of the four kings, who was the best fighter and why?
Oh man, I just seen Shakur post a tweet or something similar like this, man.
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking about.
Man, Shakur, you put me in the predicaments now, man. But that's a tough one, man. I was always a fan of guys like Tommy Hearns because again, tall, lengthy, You know what I mean?
Mm.
But he can box. He can box, but he can hit. But again, you gotta give Ray Leonard, you know what I'm saying, just the beauty and art that he did possess in that ring. Duran was a beast, was a beast in his own right. I mean,
Mm.
look at this guy was one of the best lightweights of all time. And look, he went on to look, how many weight classes did he go up and still win
Yeah.
world title championships? And then Marvin Hagler, again, he was like to where I respect in terms of like he didn't have anything easy. Same thing like I didn't get anything easy. I'm not saying I had a Marvin Hagler career. You know, I was Olympian and everything, but again, I wasn't given anything. Even now, I'm not given anything. I'm still working hard to get it. So all those guys are great in their own right. It's just all about what you're looking at or what you respect more. Like again, some guys respect the hard work and the hard route that Marvin Hagler had to go through. Some guys love, like you mentioned, that crunk background and Emmanuel Stewart, you know what I mean? So the Tommy Hearns era, so they rock with Tommy. Some guys, they love, how Roberto Duran didn't care who you were. He was a dog. He was gonna fight you to the last bell, or you had to put him down. And then of
Yeah.
course, you have your Ray Leonard. So again, I'm probably like I say with score, like it's hard to like really pick just one. But again, that's why they called them four kings because they all were special in their own right.
Yeah. And they've all got qualities that you can admire, so it's hard to
Yeah,
pick
you,
one
you can
favorite,
learn
isn't it?
something.
Yeah.
You can learn something from each and every one of those individuals and make it your own. Don't care what this one who may beat this one or that one. But that was the beauty. Also, they all fought each other. We
Yeah.
want to see that. We want to see that now. Now you get too many politics within just the fighters themselves. Especially, I think like social media kind of messed it up as well. Like social media like influences a lot, whether fighters know it or not, or want to admit it or not. Social media, because now you have the fans that get to tune in and give their perspective on things. You don't think fighters actually listen or watch these tweets and what that goes on? Like, come on now. But again, like, we still would like to see like a lot of the great talent that we see today. I just want to see these guys fight each other.
Absolutely. Second to last question: your top three fighters in the sport currently?
Top three fighters, you got to put Crawford and Inoue right there. You know, obviously, you would say Canelo's the easy choice, but again, I like to shine light to a lot of these guys, across the board, especially like the up and coming guys. Like I want to see like guys like Jerron Bruce Ennis, you know what I'm saying, make a real push and make a name for himself in the welterweight division. Again, Devin Haney is another one that I like. Matias at 140, there's a real great lineup just at 140 pounds. The Dream
Yeah.
welterweight division alone that I like down there. Like again, Bam Rodriguez. I want to see my guy Sonny Edwards come back, and because he has that he has that mind, that mentality that he's willing to fight anyone out there. So shout out to Sonny Edwards, and but again, for me, I watch everybody. I watch everybody, man. Like Usyk. I still believe that Lomachenko has something left in the tank. I believe he's going to fight, Kambosos soon.
Mm.
This coming up this year. So again, I can't really just pick three. You get what I'm saying? Like there's so many good fighters that I respect tremendously. And then you have the young guys like that. I like Bruce Carrington a lot. So so I don't think it's just Abdullah Mason, Emiliano Vargas,
Mm.
and the list just goes on, man. Even like I said, I'm looking at the young guys over there in the UK, like, yo, who's that? I mean, you see, I'm asking questions like, who's this kid? And because again, I like what I'm seeing. I'm like what I'm seeing even from the generation coming up. So I think boxing is in a real good state, and of course, you got to get love what the women are doing, because the women are actually, people don't want to admit it or not, but the women are actually willing to fight each other
Yeah.
at every weight, every weight. So you got to give credit to women in the boxing. So I think boxing is in a real healthy state. Even though we get frustrated when a fight may fall out, we still got to look at the overall picture. Like, don't just focus too highly on the bigger names. Give acknowledgement and respect to the guys that's coming up and trying to make it.
100%, and I think that's a completely fair viewpoint to have. There's so many fighters out there; it's hard to just pinpoint three a lot of the time, like you said. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that answer very much. Last question for you, Jamel. This is more aimed at yourself.
Okay.
Like you said, however long you go on for, you'll take it a fight at a time. When it is time and it is all said and done, you're at peace and you say, "I'm done. I don't want to be in boxing anymore." What would you like the fans to remember about you the most?
That Jamel Herring was willing to fight everyone out there, no matter what. No matter if you label him the underdog, say he didn't have it anymore. I was gonna go out there and fight it, and I was going to give him my all. I'm still gonna give him my all. I'm still gonna take. I'm still gonna. Jamel Herring took a risk. I want to, like, again. Somebody get Eddie Hearn on the phone, tell him that I say I want to fight. I want to fight one of his guys over there. No issue at all. Or they can come to New York, where I'm from, at the Garden, and do it over there. But again, for me, I just want to be known as not taking the easy route, the shortcuts and guys that people don't really care to see for. So that's just me.
Well, Jamel, again, thank you very much for that answer. I want to say a massive thank you to you, and I think it's fair to say I speak for all boxing fans when I say you're one of the good guys, one of the people that everyone has respect for, has love for, and like we said, you're someone who gives everyone time, gives everyone respect, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. So you're a champion in and outside the ring, with or without a belt. I think that's fair to say. So you deserve all the credit in the world, Jamel. And like I said, God bless you and your family, and thank you very, very much for your time today. I really appreciate it, Jamel. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up again soon, bro. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.